fruit of your labor. Blessings and prosperity will be yours. Psalm 128:2. Good morning and welcome to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glenn DeLakian, here every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Bridge FM radio stations covering the Northeast, and also on tandemradio.com. Anywhere across the United States or around the globe through the internet, through technology. And tandemradio.com is just a powerful resource. But we'll talk more about that later as we get into the good news on business, which is what we're all about. And if you're tuning in for the first time today, just like to share with you some precepts of where we stand and what we do on this show. We basically have two goals every week on this show. And the show is all about business. But our first goal is to help people realize that the scripture is filled with godly advice about your business and about your walk at work. God wants to be a part of your life 24/7, and He gives us information for every aspect of what we do and how we should do it. And especially covers our work life as well, even though we may tend to ignore it at work. Quite often, many people, and myself included years back, used to flip the switch when I walked in the office and said, well, you know what, I'll leave my Bible at the door, but now I bring it in with me. It's a part of what I do every day. And so God puts these things in our heart, and our goal in the show is to point out these scriptures. These scriptures are just filled with knowledge and wisdom and wealth that can help us do so much in our businesses. And our second goal is to bring you guests each week that are involved in unique businesses. And we do our best to glean some golden nuggets from them that might be able to help you with your business come Monday morning when you get back to work. Whether you own a business or you're thinking about owning a business or you're employed with someone, whatever you do at work, we hope that we can help you with some insights from not only the Bible, but also from some of our guests as well. And to that end, today we have Bob McEwan, who's a good friend, and he's the owner of the Fast Signs location in our area. And he opened that in 2012 following a successful career in software sales and corporate education. And we're going to talk to Bob more in a few minutes. But before we go there, let's get to the scriptures today. Each week, based on our guest, when we have someone in for a show, we have a subtitle to the show. And today's title is Signage for Business, because Bob happens to be in the fast signs business, so it has an tie-in. But Signage for Business. And I'll tell you, I looked in the scriptures for signage, but I couldn't find that, so I found these scriptures, though, that work out well. Psalm 74:4. Your foes roared in the place where you met with us. They set up their standards as signs. Matthew 5:16. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. So with that said, we're going to see how God ties those into today's talk, because He always does, because this is a Spirit-led show. Let us introduce you to our guest and friend, Bob McEwan, who is the owner of the Fast Signs location in our area, which he opened in 2012 following a successful career in software sales and corporate education. Good morning, Bob, and welcome.
Good morning, Glenn. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. It's good to get you in the studio. Bob, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've actually had three careers. I started in corporate education. Before that, I was actually a high school teacher for a few years. Made the transition from corporate education into software sales through a couple of unique twists and turns, with, where one door closed, another door opened, and literally fell into software sales. After about 20 years in that, I was looking for a different direction to go, and I went to an exhibition called the International Franchise Expo, not really looking for something in particular, kind of knowing what I didn't want to do more than what I wanted to do, and I literally bumped into Fast Signs there, and our entire conversation had nothing to do with signage at all. It was how they are the number one franchise in terms of franchise satisfaction in their segment, and like 3 or 4 overall. And the whole term of quality and customer service was our focus of our conversation. And from there, I kind of did a lot of due diligence over the next few months, and it seemed like that was the direction to go in. So we took the total leap of faith and go in a different direction and bought our franchise.
There you go. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's what I want to really focus on in our first segment today, because franchising is something that does intrigue people, and it gives people unique opportunities. But it's also not an end-all, cure-all. There's many franchises that are a disaster to get involved with, and I've seen, unfortunately, many that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. But then on the other hand, there's many that have done very well and have been very successful. And it's interesting you brought that unique perspective. So let's talk about that. You were in traditional business, in the field of doing software sales and so forth. You decided you wanted to be own your own business, and of course franchising was the route you took. What was most appealing to you about franchising that made you go that direction?
Well, one of the things about franchising is that there's a proven system. So there's a safety net, if you will. The franchises that are successful are the ones that typically follow the system. And there are a variety of franchises out there. And if anyone goes to any of these expos, they'll find out that there's many more franchises than they ever imagined.
Right.
There are franchises that help people buy franchises.
Oh, really?
One of the things that kind of attracted me in my due diligence to Fast Signs is that everything they do is for one thing, and that is to support the franchisee. The only way that Fast Signs as a corporation makes money is through royalties from our sales. So we don't buy anything directly from them.
Oh, interesting.
So their success is directly tied to the franchise partner's success. And that was something that was important to me, where there are some franchises out there that you need to buy everything from them,
Right.
and then there's royalties and everything attached to that. The other thing that rang very true to me was that there's 110 people in Fast Signs corporate. Their focus is one thing, and that is to support us. And that really rang true from the CEO right down to some of the administrative people in the office. Everything they do is for one goal, and that is to make us successful.
And those are some important things to look for that I think the average person wouldn't think of. That number one, where does the franchise corporate make their money?
Right.
And therefore, as the Bible says, where your money is, your heart is, right, or whatever. And the point, I love the paraphrase, but the point is that, think about that, if their motivation is to sell you more stuff, it's regardless of whether you sell it or not, they don't care, right? So, and there are a lot of franchises where you have to buy every nut and bolt from them, right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, there are some very good concepts out there, and there are some that don't have the infrastructure in place to really support. One of the things that I also liked about Fast Signs was that it was a mature franchise. It had been around for 20, 25 years.
Oh, okay.
So it was a proven model that has been successful. And talking to a lot of the other franchise owners, I visited about 12 different ones in different parts of the country before I bought my own.
Oh, okay.
Was how they felt about it. Would they do it again? Was it financially satisfying for them? Was it professionally satisfying for them? And literally, it all rang true. And one of the things that I liked about it was the corporation did not direct me to who to talk to.
Oh, okay.
Virtually anybody that I wanted to.
Right.
I could just pick up the phone and talk to them or schedule a meeting with them, and they were very open.
Right. Now, with franchises, they give you territories, correct? Geographic, basically?
Different franchises do the territories in different ways. So in my situation, we have what's called an A1 geography, which is, yes, it is a geographic focus, but it is primarily by business count as opposed to just strict geographies.
Oh, really?
I have the ability to sell anywhere. If someone comes to me from Florida, for example, I've had this opportunity where someone needs some signage, we can definitely satisfy their needs.
Wow.
We just can't actively market in other people's territory, and it doesn't make sense because the territory that they've given us has been rich enough that that we can farm our existing territory without going into others.
Now, do they have any geographic restrictions, like you can't open a store within a certain mileage of your store?
Well, what happens is when prior to opening a franchise, they have what they call open territories.
Okay.
So they have predefined those throughout the entire country, and actually throughout the world, where there are defined categories in terms of geography and business counts. So they have already predetermined. For example, in New Jersey, there are certain territories that are already taken care of, and then there are some that they consider open. Right now, I believe we have about 24 locations in New Jersey itself.
Oh, wow.
We were the 19th one to open.
No, interesting. So they're still expanding in New Jersey?
They still are expanding actually throughout the country. I think they opened up about 33 new locations last year.
Now, I know you spend a lot of time with entrepreneurs. I know you have a lot of friends that are entrepreneurs, include myself among that. So you obviously looked at franchise opportunities and not franchise opportunities, right? When you're looking, because obviously you wanted to change in what you were doing. What do you find are some of the, I'll first ask you some of the pitfalls of being in a franchise, and I'm not saying maybe even specific to Fast Sign, but just generally, what are some of the things that maybe, you're not so crazy about? But on the other hand, I'm gonna also ask you to follow up with what are some of the things that you love about franchise?
Okay. Well, I think, the thing that I like about franchising is that for my case, my situation, I'm going into a whole entire new industry. Signage is not something I grew up with.
Right.
If you talked to me 3 years ago and told me I'd be owning a sign company, I'd look at you like you had four heads.
Right.
I really don't know, the ins and outs of that industry. So the advantage of having a franchise is that you've got a proven system, you've got resources, you can get up to speed a lot faster than trying to do it on your own. If I went and tried to do this on my own, I would not be successful at all. That's almost a guaranteed failure in this particular case. One of the things with franchising that may be a little bit of a drawback is that where you've got independence, you still need to carry the corporate flag. In my case, and I don't think that's really a drawback. But one of the things is that we happen to be in a unique situation where we're not limited in terms of what we can sell, where we can sell. We're limited in terms of where we can actively market. And that's been not really a drawback, but has been a situation where, because of my relationships, I would like to maybe exhibit in a couple different areas just because of networking and things like that. But I want to make sure that I play I do the things that need to be right for the corporation as well, and that is I don't want to go into another person's territory and exhibit at a trade show or something like that.
Well, that's great. Well, we're coming up on the break already, believe it or not, and through the first segment. And we'll be back right after these words. This is Glenn DeLake, your host of Tandem Radio. The good news on business today, talking about signage for business, and talking about Bob McEwan, about his franchise experience and his Fast Signs franchise, and other things that we'll be talking about in the next segment that we're excited about to help you, the business owner, the professional, the person who's out there working, to find out more about how you can improve where you're at and maybe even make some decisions to change where you're at, like Bob did, and so much more in the next segment. So stay tuned. This is Tandem Radio. Be right back. Welcome back. This is your host, Glenn DeLake, and here at Tandem Radio, the good news on business, talking to you today with the subtitle of Signage for Business with our good friend Bob McEwan, who's the owner of the Fast Signs franchise in our area, which he opened back in 2012 following a successful career in software sales and corporate education. And we're going to talk more to Bob in a minute. But before we go there, let's hit on our scriptures for today. Psalm 74:4. Your foes roared in the place where you met with us. They set up their standards as signs. Matthew 5:16. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Bob, I had to hit this. I tried to find signs in the Bible, and this is the closest I could find. But it's a good example. I mean, they raised standards back in those days,
Sure.
which is not the standards that we're talking about, as far as raising the bar, but literally they were signs. They were
Yep.
giant signs that people used in peace and war, and signs have been around for the longest time, right? And it's kind of funny that even back in Psalms, and I'm sure well before that, I just didn't find it, but how people held up standards and how signs made such an impact on people who were in the arena, whether it was battle signs to charge and fight, or it was signs saying, hey, this is my territory, you better watch where you're going and what you're doing. And of course, the Matthew scripture, I think it's so important that if we have something that's good, like in the case of a business, we need to get it out there. We need to let our light shine and let people see it. And just like, the signs of what we do, as Christians come out in our actions and how we do it every day. As a business, we need to get the word out there with signs. So maybe it's a stretch, but it works for me, right? But again, welcome this morning, Bob, and I'm glad to have you. Let's talk a little bit about your transition from, pre-signage business or pre-franchise or business owner to going into it. What welled up in you to say, hey, you know what, I want to be my own boss?
Well, one of the things is in the software area, when things go well, they go very well.
Mm-hmm.
In software sales, when things are not well, there are it doesn't go very well at all.
Right.
One of the things that happened in the economy, particularly in 2008, because of the financial hits,
Right.
there was a dramatic backlash in terms of moving forward with technology and not moving forward with technology because of the funds being so stretched in other areas. A lot of the projects they were looking at in terms of moving forward with technology got put on the back burner.
Interesting.
So I was actually with an organization that they brought me on board in order to build up the Northeast in terms of services. They brought myself, a couple consultants, and a few others on board. We were actually doing pretty well in terms of the success of building up that territory. But because of the economy, they decided that they wanted to focus on their existing territories. And they were in Atlanta and Dallas.
Right.
So what they basically said was, we can't invest any more money into the Northeast at this time. So as a result, they did a reduction in force. Then they basically got rid of the whole Northeast territory, myself, the consultants we brought on board, and some of the support staff on board. So so I was in a situation where I was literally looking for the right opportunity and trying to figure out whether software was still the best direction. I was talking to a number of large technology companies, and we were going through the interview process, and just didn't seem like it was going to ever really fulfill. So those doors are kind of being closed. So I started looking in other directions, and the franchise opportunity was something that literally I had been to the International Franchise Expo before, never found anything that really excited me, and literally stumbled into Fast Signs, and the rest just went from there. So the Lord had some unusual ways of opening doors for me, and showing us the right direction. It's just in some cases being open enough to really say, is this the direction to go?
There you go. And listening, I mean, so many times we jump into things without taking the time to back up, pray, and listen and hear. And on that note, I wanted to ask you, how does your faith impact what you're doing?
My faith is actually, part of my everyday life. We do, our credo is basically do the right thing.
Right.
There are times when, if we have a situation where we've made a mistake, we have to go a little bit extra in order to satisfy the customer, even though it may cost us some money. That's what we're going to do. We do a lot of work with nonprofits, and we feel that we need to partner with them because we want to help them out in any way we can. Anywhere, whether it happens to be a faith-based nonprofits, we do a number of organizations where they need to get the word out for events and fundraising and things like that. So we do a lot with them, but regardless of our customer, whether they happen to be a nonprofit, faith-based, or a commercial organization, it's the idea of partnering with them to figure out the right solution.
So, you're able to, through maybe even some sort of philanthropy to help these people out through not only your ideas and thoughts and working them into these charitable community type organizations, but also to help them with their direction and move ahead with what they're doing through personal business ownership.
Yeah, one of the things too is whatever we do, we're looking at satisfying the visual communication needs, and that's signage in its basic right. format. But the whole thing is not to sell them a sign, but try to figure out what they want to accomplish. Do they want to get into a new business area? Are they trying to highlight a product? Are they trying to highlight an event? How can we get the word out? And our tagline is more than fast, more than signs, and that's throughout the entire company. And we do visual communication solutions anywhere from business cards to channel letters in the outside of buildings, to vehicle wraps, to trade show displays, to digital signage, and virtually everything in between.
And again, you don't always think of that, at least I don't always think about that, but there is this expanse of visual communications. So, how do you market to your potential clients? How do you find new business?
We do a number of different ways. We do some direct mail. Believe it or not, direct mail is actually pretty good these days because not a lot of people are doing it anymore.
Yeah, I use it. It's
where several years ago everybody and their brother was doing direct mail and nothing else. Well, now it's become more of the exception than the rule. So we've got direct mail. We do some telemarketing. We do social media marketing. We do a lot of networking, and a lot of the business we do is actually referral based and through relationships that we've done.
You do a lot of signs?
We do a lot of signs. We do a lot of different things, and one of the things that I really like about this business, and one of the things I was looking for in the direction I'm going, was to have the opportunity to build up accounts, not just do transactional sales.
All right.
The ones and dones are something that, yes, every business has that, but I wanted an opportunity to be able to grow relationships and grow accounts and work with them in a trusted advisor in a direction that we can actually help them out with their needs.
And let's talk about, I know we're switching hats here,
Sure.
technically. Let's talk about technology. What's changed in the sign business? I mean, you've only been there a couple of years, but how are you making signs these days?
So one of the things that happens for the most part, it is all computer based. It is all based on, for the most part, design software and digital printing with other other techniques. Basically, what it is, it's going from a concept to having a graphic designer create it on the computer to transmitting it either to a plotter or a printer, and then building it from there. The days of hand painting signs, are back in the day. That doesn't exist anymore. And believe me, if it was up to me to hand paint a sign, we'd be in big trouble.
So you actually have the machines and everything that actually, you put the material in and it spits out the sign.
Basically, we put the vinyl in, we print it off, and then from there we usually laminate it, and then from there we build it onto what's called the substrate. And the substrate can be anything from a corrugated plastic material to wood. A lot of things we use is what's called a polymetal these days, which is two very thin pieces of aluminum with foam in between, which is a very, very durable substance.
Interesting. What's the biggest sign you've done so far?
The biggest sign that we've done so far has probably been about a 12-foot by 4-foot sign. We actually are doing a proposal right now for one of the biggest signs that a lot of people have ever done, because it's going to be about 16 feet by 32 feet.
Oh, wow.
That's going to be something, if the client decides to move forward with it, will have to be fabricated on site, because you cannot assemble something that big and truck it
Right.
anywhere.
So you put pieces together like a puzzle, and then you go on site and assemble.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's the smallest signs you guys do?
Nameplates.
Oh, you do nameplates?
We do nameplates. We do actually we're doing little name badges for our church right now, and we also do business cards. So we can do I think the smallest one we ever did was someone came in with a Lionel train car and wanted some lettering put on it.
Oh, really? No
Yeah.
kidding. There you go. You never think of those things, right? And so what's next for you in what you're doing as far as where you're going with the business?
So one of the things we're doing is we are getting a lot into the digital signage area. And digital signage is something that's new for a lot of people. It's there and they don't realize it's digital signage. There are a couple different types. The interior digital signs are things that you may see in the malls and the kiosks and things like that. For example, Burger King, all their menus are actually digital signs now. They don't manually flip between breakfast and lunch. So we have some of our clients that are doing some of that in that area. The external digital sign, the LED reader boards and things like that are another area that we're working on. One of the things that we're looking at from our business standpoint is to grow the business, and one of the things we're looking for is to expand it in a couple different ways. One is expanding personnel-wise, and also getting into deeper into some of our market areas.
Interesting. Well, Bob, I want to wish you luck. I mean, I know that all is well and that you're doing good, and I know I've seen your work out there with a lot of people, and I want to just say I wish you much of God's blessings, and that all these good things continue to come your way. Thanks for coming in today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn. Really appreciate it.
We listen to Tandem Radio. This is your host, Glenn DeLake, here every Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, bringing you the good news on business. Today, talking about signage for Business with our good friend Bob McEwan, who's the owner of Fast Signs. If you want to find out more about what Bob does, just go to our website, tandemradio.com. We'll have a link there to his website, and you can contact him through that. If you need a sign, certainly reach out to Bob, and he's the man, especially in this area. But wherever you're calling from, he obviously can help you, right, Bob?
Yes, we can.
And so much more. So thanks for tuning in. We'll be here next Saturday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we are every week on the Bridge FM. Or check us out at tandemradio.com. That's tandemradio.com, or on Facebook at Tandem Radio. Just like us, send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.